welcome to Never Too Serious with Scott and Dave. I'm Scott.
And I'm Dave.
All right, Dave. So California, Oregon, and Washington have all announced that in 2035, they want to ban the sale of the new gas vehicles.
Oh, good.
So you can still sell used...
I'm totally kidding.
So you can sell your used vehicle. You just can't sell new gas vehicles.
I didn't know that's a twist for me. I didn't know that was the case. So when you sell them, do you have to sell them to outside of the state people only?
Well, I don't think
the value on those cars is just going to go skyrocket. Why in the hell are people still living there?
I know. Well, from what I understand is that California can have their own rules about this sort of thing, about emissions. And emissions in California are much more stringent than federal rules.
Yeah.
And so Oregon and Washington are wanting to follow California's lead in this. And they have like a certain chart where they're talking about in 2026 that they want 35% of all vehicles sold to be renewable, zero emissions.
So that means that the people that live there have to want that.
Well, and then by 2035, it scales up. So every year it's another few percentage points, and then by 2035 it's 100%. And I just think, what an industry killer, because new cars, gasoline is still the best method. I mean, yes.
I know. What about their rolling blackouts?
I know.
What are they thinking?
Yeah, that's a good point.
We would think of the rolling blackouts then.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to do it on their own.
Yeah. I mean, I have a little dog in this fight because I have an electric vehicle that I drive around, but I also have a gas guzzler.
Yeah.
They kind of...
You have no in between at all.
Yeah, they are the extremes. But so I like the electric vehicle. I like mine in particular because of the performance factors, and we've talked about it on other podcasts. But what annoys me is that everyone looks at this as like this great zero emissions thing. And like you've said on other podcasts, well, where's the energy coming from? It's still coming from other sources that are not sustainable. It's like...
That's right.
I shouldn't say sustainable. They're not reliable. You can't have constant wind. You can't have constant solar. Batteries are really, really harmful to other countries because we don't really mine a whole lot for minerals for batteries here. We get them from other countries, and it's devastating to their environment.
It really is.
Let alone, what do we do when we have so many batteries and it's time to get rid of them?
Yeah.
Where do they go? How do we recycle them? And is the cost of energy to recycle them more than what was...
They're just going to dig a big hole and bury them.
So with this being said, Oregon and Washington haven't fully... I don't think they fully committed yet. I could be wrong about that, but they're like really on board with this. But this news, to me, made me start thinking about the sustainable movement. And then, of course, on YouTube, I go down a rabbit trail. And I end up running into all kinds of utopian ideas of what life should be like in the future using 100% renewables. I found one.
Oh,
you did? Well, okay, no, it's not complete because no utopia really exists.
See, there you go. You found nothing. False flag. That's what you found.
But I did bring some videos.
Well, let's check it out.
So we can watch some videos.
Well, am I jumping the gun?
No, we can totally watch some videos.
I'm just getting anxious.
Now,
I don't know what one of those would look like.
Yeah. It is kind of an interesting thought game, I guess. I don't know. What do you call those? Yeah. But
simulation.
Go ahead.
Well, I just crazy because, California, I mean, they're so ahead of the game, like San Francisco and their new sewers and, the streets. Really, it's just like, focus, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's a thing to do or not, or maybe we just have a choice. Mm-hmm. But how about focus? Put all that effort on the cleaning the hell up, giving people help that they need, and stop worrying about your damn vision.
That's a very good point. And there are some folks on the internet who have made comments about this utopian idea of renewables. And they made a very similar comment, thinking in many of these countries where they have these governments that want this utopian idea actually to come to fruition and the costs involved, it's just like you said, you can have all these great ideas and think about all these new innovative things, but why not fix some of the problems that exist already? Because, the sewers that are on the sidewalks, all the stuff that they have to deal with as a resident, why not use the money to fix that?
Right. Instead of going for a 10, which is Utopia, and they're a 0, let's just settle for a 5 across the playing field.
Yeah. Well, and some of these people are living in, in relative, poor conditions.
Yeah.
And $1 million put towards a city or a community that could be their entire infrastructure for sewer systems or electrical. But this city in Saudi Arabia they're talking about a $500 billion initial investment, and I've just read now recently that they've upped that to $1 trillion. So let me play the video. This is a description of the bigger region they called Neom.
Oh, yeah. How do you say that?
I think it's Neom.
Neom?
Neom or Neom.
I'll go Neom.
And, Americanized version of any weird spelling. Neom. And so Neom is like a region. And they want to build the prince in Saudi Arabia. What's his name? Mohammed bin Salman. He is the son of the king, and this is like his big pet project. And Neom is the big region where all of these other innovative zero emission things will come into play.
This is his pyramid.
Yeah, that's actually really good.
Yep. This is how he's going to keep his name around for a long time. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh.
You see desert. We see opportunity. You see the sun. We see inexhaustible energy. You see ancient lands. We see the world tomorrow. This is Neom. 26,500 square kilometers of desert, valleys, mountains, and coastline. A living laboratory, home to the brightest minds dedicated to the sanctity of all life on Earth. Where ecosystems of abundant plant, animal, and ever-enriching marine life will thrive as never before. A blueprint for tomorrow, in which humanity progresses without compromise to the health of the planet. Where technology will advance in harmony with nature. Where the questions about our future relationship with our home are at last being answered. Neom, accelerator of human progress.
That's a pretty well done video.
Heck yeah.
So those of you just catching the audio version, they're showing constant pictures of this beautiful desert area, beautiful mountains, beaches, people walking, and it looks wonderful. But they don't describe really anything in much detail.
No.
When they talk about technology and clean energy, they're showing windmills, they're showing solar panels and arrays and that sort of thing. Yeah, they're doing the very surface level. They don't talk about any of the details. And in fact, I've looked through their website and looked for some of these details. It's hard to find anything.
Is that right?
It's very lofty. It's they just, it's great advertising to raise some money here. The region is massive, as they described in here.
Right.
And within that region, they want to create these other projects. And I want to say that Saudi Arabia has, their economy is pretty big. Their oil production is massive. It's like one of the second largest in the world. But they have this fear, I don't know if it's really a fear, but they have this fear that fossil fuels are going to go away. and how are they going to survive as an economy? Because they are surviving right now because of oil.
Right.
What else do they have to offer?
Sand. Start bagging that up and selling it.
Mm-hmm. Well, so this idea of they're taking this region, which a lot of it's desert, but there's people who live in some of these regions. And from what I understand is that the Crown Prince has basically removed these people from their lands because it's a dictatorship.
Yeah,
I
got plans for this. You're not doing what I'm going to do. Get out.
Mm-hmm.
See?
And of course they're all pissed off and
mind you, they could do that to us here too.
Well, I mean, potentially they're already doing it in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
They're kicking people off of their land
But
because
they're not.
the better good of government works.
Yeah, but they're not making it all pretty and beautiful like these guys are.
Yeah, it's pretty lofty.
At least they're doing something in his way. In fact, get the hell out of there. What are they doing? They should never have been there. They're wasting.
Yeah, well, it turns
Shame
out
on
that
them.
there's this activist guy who's from one of the tribes, and I say tribe, but it's massive. Their population is quite a few thousand people, and I guess it sounds like someone murdered him, and that's what happens when you're in a society like
Right.
that, where you've got, totalitarian.
When you want to speak up
regime.
against, for your rights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was a reporter that was basically assassinated, and the CIA came up with that this bin Salman Prince was the guy who ordered that hit. He was a journalist, and I can't remember for what newspaper organization, but he's from that area, but reports on this stuff, and he was outspoken against this particular project, and they murdered him, and they they cut off body parts, and then they soaked it in acid to get rid of it, and turns out the CIA thinks that the prince had it done.
Well,
so there you go. There's that.
unfortunately, I guess he has that right.
If you're in charge, I guess stand on Prince.
That's Utopia there, people.
So there's another video I want to show you.
But I will say that they did sound really good, but they didn't show us anything to make it to show that it's self-sustaining or anything like that.
Yeah, and that's where the problem comes in.
And I will tell you, the BS started when they're like, all the brightest minds are here. I'm like, dude, you and I are still sitting here. Nobody's called us to even go over there and give our opinion.
Yeah, Dave.
It ain't going to be nothing until they call us.
It's really
Be
funny.
second rate.
Well, if you go to their website, it is a massive advertisement for talent. They are hiring a lot of different people. They have a whole bunch. It's really done well, like for marketing. Videos are really well done. Advertisements for the positions that they're looking for, the technologies that they want to improve on. This is one of their little quick ads. It's a minute long, and this is one of the cities in the mountains near, like, the valley area that Neom is looking at building some other stuff. So this is the mountain version.
Journey to new heights. A unique global destination driven by cutting-edge technology in Neom. This is Trojena. Breathtaking architecture and innovative engineering fold seamlessly into the natural landscape. Ascend to a vertical village, a portal connecting the digital and the physical. The seasonal climate provides a multitude of high-altitude adventures in the Arabian Peninsula with the region's first outdoor ski experience. Enjoy the buzz of world-class entertainment, the crisp mountain air, and the world's most advanced health and well-being center nourish both body and soul. And as night falls, you can witness the stars as you've never seen them before. Welcome to Trojena, the mountains of Neom.
It just sounds like a sandals resort. I
totally agree.
So, a government doesn't even have that kind of money to build that. It's I think that stuff is really cool. I do. It's just, if nothing cost money at all, and then absolutely all of that is possible. But it's hard to believe that would be able to. I mean, if they actually did build that, by the time they would get the funds and the ability to build it, I would think that the first thing you built is now all dilapidated and old while you're still working on it. I just I could be wrong, but I thought Dubai had like some islands or something that they built, and I'm not saying it's the same thing, but they put a lot of money into it, and boy, it turned out well. I think it's just an island. I don't know if there's any people on it.
Yeah, I'll put some pictures up here because that's you're making a very valid argument, which is you raise enough money to build this stuff, then you also have to be able to sustain it. And these are the islands of Dubai. And so much money went into building them, and a lot of them have never been completed and are now becoming part of nature again.
Right. And, and this is nothing compared to what they're talking about.
Oh, sure.
This here is just kids in a sandbox compared to
the scale.
Amazing. I love it. I'm not going to lie to you. I like to design things, and I think it is amazing. But boy, oh boy, I don't know how we would even be able to start that.
Well, okay, so we've talked about Neom as being this region, and then these projects built within it. That's what they call it, Trojan. What I was thinking, like Trojan condoms the whole time. Like, this sounds like maybe like a scam. Like the old Trojan horse.
Yeah. Huh?
Yeah. Because it to me seems like they're going to do a whole bunch of fundraising, and the funds are going to go someplace else.
We only need $17 trillion. No big deal.
Yeah, Trojana. That's the name of it.
Trojana.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking scam, but I agree. I think it's really cool to imagine the future, and they're doing an incredible job making these videos.
Yeah.
I highly suggest those of you who are just listening to the show catch the video version or go online and find some of these videos, because they do present them very, very well. There's a lot of, it's like you said, a sandals resort. It looks like vacation resorts. It doesn't look like it's.
Who do we think we are that we could do anything like that?
Yeah.
No, well, I mean, I know we could.
But then, how do you make it into this paradise that they're describing when you're in the middle of a desert? I mean, what kind of factors would limit this?
And the people that will only be allowed to be there aren't going to be willing to lift a damn finger to do anything to help sustain it either. Yeah. It's only going to be like 0.5% of, not even that, people that would be even allowed in it. So,
well, they think about the cost of building anything in a mountainous region. How do you get supplies to build there anyway? Right. How do you change the weather to sustain the plant life and the other things? I mean, the desert climate is really, really hard on everything.
Yep.
It's reason why there's very little life that lives in that particular area, and the life that does live there is well adapted.
Right. They're not going to stop a dust storm. I mean, who knows? Maybe they learn how to capture it and harness its power and use it for greater good. I don't know.
But you're right when you were talking about how do you sustain these buildings once they're built. How do you maintain them?
Yeah,
there's a massive cost to maintain. I mean, just recently in our area, we've had new schools built, and one of the arguments that I was making early on was, sure, we're gonna accept this new tax bill to build these beautiful things. Where do we then find the money to sustain them, to maintain them over time?
Yeah, well,
and we're already seeing them starting to decay.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, and when they choose to, like you're talking about, maintaining them, but like who are the people that are living there? I mean, they're gonna have to leave to work. I mean, you can't even pay for. I couldn't even imagine you renting it, or how can you even live there? It would be so astronomical to live there.
You would think it. Yeah, you would think it would.
It would just wouldn't. I don't know. It's just
Okay, so the other thing about water, it's a very desert, arid climate. How do you get water? That's a massive requirement for humans, not just in what we consume and drink, but also all of the other pieces, bathing, manufacturing, the other requirements of the plant life. I mean, water is it's a critical thing for any human civilization. Any civilization that's ever started has always started around a water source.
well,
Every
I
major
think- I
city
think-
has a river running through it. It
and there's
seems.
probably water sources. They just have to dig deeper.
Yeah, they're talking about desalinization,
Yeah.
taking in ocean water. The problem with desalinization is once you get the clean water out of it, you have all of this leftover salt.
Yeah.
And what do you do with that? A lot of these plants will just dump it back in the ocean. The problem is that it's now a very concentrated version that sinks to the bottom of the ocean, and it changes the balance of
That's right.
of oxygen in that area, and now you've got plant life.
It'd be biohazard.
It'd be biohazard. The fish can't handle it.
You're right.
So you can't do it that way. Now they're talking about having these other technologies to make this a doable thing, but we're talking about so many different processes to make it where they would reuse the salt for other technologies. But so far, that's all new. Like a lot of this technology doesn't currently exist in the way that they're describing it. And we're only talking about this mountainous
Right.
region. We're not talking about the valley.
But I think I could be wrong, but I think part of their, I don't know, what makes it so awesome is that they're doing this on a desert. It's not like they're doing it here. Because here would be.
It'd be a lot harder to do with like forest land and the wildlife.
Here, if you will, we could just, I don't know, level all the homes, and then guess what? Now we have a self-sustaining place to live. There, it's just sand. It's nothing self-sustaining about it. But
yeah, there's a lot more resources you got to bring in.
maybe going in the future isn't the way to go. Maybe it's reverting back to maybe that's the real way to.
Well, I want to talk
self-sustaining.
about that before we get to the end of the show, because there's something to be said about primitive living.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the other project. They're working on several. The stuff that they've accomplished so far happens to be palaces with a golf course for the royal family. So they have started construction. There are things happening, and that's what they have so far. But they've expanded now into these other things, which the little people will get an opportunity to participate in. At
least take pictures of it.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the Line City. They call it the Line, but it's I'll just play the video.
All right.
You'll get a sense of what they're talking about.
A revolution in civilization is taking place. Imagine a traditional city and consolidating its footprint, designing to protect and enhance nature. The Line's communities are organized in 3 dimensions within 5-minute walk neighborhoods. Travel end to end in 20 minutes. Designed by world-leading architects, the Line is 500 meters tall, 200 meters wide, 170 kilometers long, and housed within an elegant mirror glass facade. The Line is designed as a series of unique communities, providing equitable views and immediate access to the surrounding nature. At the heart of the globe's key trade routes, a place for commerce and communities to thrive. The Line, the city that delivers new wonders for the world.
Talk about Utopia.
I got a different vibe. I think.
Oh, is that right?
That one scared the hell out of me.
That was more like prison to you?
Yeah. That looks like a place that you don't have a choice to be. I don't know, man. That does not look right.
Okay, so the Line is, they want to, like the video was saying, they want to consolidate, and instead of having the sprawl of cities in urban areas, they want to combine them into a line, and it is what they describe, a line, and they have multiple levels. It's
taller than the Empire State Building,
and it's like 100 miles long.
Right.
So
it looks so unlively,
and it's all mirrored glass on the outside. It looks very futuristic.
It looks like you have to be completely brainwashed, and everybody has to be in line in order to freaking live in that place. Because what they say sounds terrible. I don't want to maybe live that close with all those people. How many people in 100 miles?
Okay, so they're talking about 9 million for this Line City. 9 million people.
All right. So what's 10% of 9 million? Help me out.
That's 10% of 9 million would be 900,000.
Holy crap.
Is that right?
Idiots. What if we're talking like the people that look in their gas tank to see if it's full or not with a lighter because they need a light? That's 10%. You got to share a building with them. They're going to burn that thing down. They're going to blow it up, and you're stuck in it, upside, or they're going to be above you or below you.
I haven't gotten past the looking in the gas tank with a lighter.
Well, there's people that do that. I know.
No, it's a good point, but they are recruiting people to live in this city that are part of its development. So it's not just the common person who's going to be moving into it. It's kind of like, the people who are the rich, the people who are engineering this thing, the politicians. We're talking about not the regular people who are farming or
I think it's going to be bad. It's going to turn
herding
bad.
goats. But the concept looks very futuristic. They're talking about having all of these things within a walking distance, so you don't have to have cars, so they're not going to have roads. They're talking about a transit system. It's basically like a maglev train that travels from one end to the other. It's 100 miles, and they say that they can do it in 20 minutes. Now, the technology doesn't currently exist to be able to do that. I think it might be China. No, Japan maybe has the fastest maglev train, and it goes 300 and something miles per hour, and the record was only done in test form. It's not actually operating.
Yeah, but the damn thing's got to stop and let people out once in a while. So what's the point of it going so fast?
Well, but I mean, the fact of the matter is the technology doesn't exist for it to travel 100 miles in 20 minutes.
Well, neither does the line. So it all works out fine.
That's a good point.
I mean, I could come up with, how about this? If anything goes, I think I could come up with something better than that. I mean, these guys have got to be sitting there, come up with, well, we have to have these parameters or this parameter. I mean,
I just think that you're not a scam artist, so I don't think you can come up with the same level of
see how many suckers are willing to buy into that.
Yeah. Now, originally, like I said, they thought that they needed about $500 billion to do these things, and now it's at $1 trillion. And they have investors, they have corporate investors, and that sort of thing. Earlier, you were talking about, being in a controlled environment. The government over there is very controlling. I mean, I was reading a news article that was it 2018. Women were finally allowed to travel without permission from their husbands. 2018.
That's ridiculous. My wife still. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Oh, no. Don't get in trouble again.
I know. Babe. She goes everywhere. I stay at home. That's the truth.
But I was reading that article, and the article is like a big highlight of 2018. Women are finally able to travel without permission from their husbands. And everyone in that picture had their head covered. And the majority of them had their face covered.
Really?
They're working. What are the
hijabs?
Is that what it is? I can't remember.
Burqa.
That's
What's
it.
a hijab then?
That's a head thing, right? I don't know. I don't know the culture very well, but it just find it interesting that they're talking about this futuristic utopian thing, yet in 2018 they're still fully covered.
Right. And it's one of those things. Why don't you work on some other stuff? Like we would work on our, sewers on the sidewalk. They should work on, I don't know, empowering their, women.
Mm-hmm. Well, they don't have any of the. They have limited rights in certain areas. Like all the LGBTQ stuff does not fly over there.
Mm-mm.
The religious beliefs are really, really strict over there, and it's like, what do you do?
I'm fighting off saying stuff I'm going to get in trouble about.
You better watch your mouth, Dave.
I'll just stop. It's
my
hard.
gosh, it's really funny to watch your reactions and stuff. But we're talking about this very modern, futuristic society, yet in 2018, the women have just now gotten the ability to travel without permission from their husband. So can you imagine them actually building something similar to this? Let's just say that the technology existed for them to do this and they had the money to do it. The society that they would have would be so controlled just based on the realities of what their belief system is.
Oh, for sure.
And
even more so then.
And they want to make this an international thing where they want to change their rules so that it's more fitting for international travel and tourism and that sort of thing. But again, if you think in the scheme, grand scheme of the entire world, there are so many different cultures. And, the American culture is quite crazy in comparison to some other cultures.
Yeah.
So how progressive are they really thinking? I don't think that they could do it because of the traditions of that Middle Eastern culture. I just don't think that they could let go of some of these things. They were even talking, they don't even allow you to drink alcohol.
Yep.
That's a real no-no.
I'm not going to fly all the way over there and not have a beer.
Yeah, or pork. I mean, anything that's has to do with, the religion of Islam. There's some real hard rules.
Right. And that's not something you want to share with, tourists.
No.
Or that you can, because, we would go over there and just be happy to check stuff out and then screw up, get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Or we'll find that there's nothing to go over there and check out because there's nothing that we would want to be involved in.
Dave and I appreciate you listening to the show. Please take a moment and write a review on Apple Podcast or podchaser.com. And since Spotify doesn't currently have reviews, simply telling your friends about the show would be great too. Also, you can always reach out to us at our website, nevertooserious.com, or via our socials at the NTS Podcast. And seriously, from the bottom of our hearts, thanks again for listening to the show.
Well, so let's talk about some of the technology pieces and how these things would be really difficult to come up with. I mean, we've already talked about the train. That's a difficult thing. The way that they're talking about designing this, which is different than the video, by the way, they're talking about 3 basic levels. The top level, they consider what they call the ground level. The ground level is where pedestrians and people hang out. This is where people are generally kind of...
Public space.
Yeah, public space. That's a good way of putting it. The level below that would be like commerce. This is where the businesses are. This is where maybe some of the housing stuff would be, potentially like apartments and that sort of thing. It would be where people are shopping and kind of doing a lot of their daily job stuff. And then the bottom level, the third level down, is really the underground where transit takes place. They're talking about having a lot of like automated, like machine robotics sort of thing, assisting in the movement of products and service, products and goods and that sort of thing. So that ground level is where they would have most of, if you imagine like a big mall, it's those back corridors to get stuff done.
Yep.
And based on what the video was showing, it doesn't look like that. I mean, the Empire State Building, how many meters did they say it was tall? Was it 500 meters tall?
Yeah, I know it was more than 17. Yeah, I know that. I can't remember how tall.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really tall. So within that space, these levels, I don't know what proportions they would take up of that space, because I think it was like 500 meters wide as well, and then I can't remember how tall, but that's a limited space in width and in height. Now we're talking 100 miles long. So they think that they can build these things next to each other along this line. What I find interesting is if you think about how a normal city is planned and how it's laid out, as population grows, it has to grow with that population. And sometimes it grows based on natural features, where the resources are. Or, I don't know, there's some planning that people can do where they plan out the roads and that sort of thing. And they say, okay, now this is where we can have more traffic or more commerce because of because of the resources in that area. And then that compared to what it would take to travel to these other places, so there's some planning that goes on. In this, by the time that they would build each area and population increase, I would imagine that the original structures, the original stuff that they built would then kind of be outdated. So as new growth happens, what do you do with the old ones? You can go to any city and you can see where
that's where the
new and old
that's where
is.
the classes get started.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, you guys could take that one over there. We're gonna keep on moving on up over here. But yeah,
I don't know how they structure it with the future, the inevitable growth. If it really is functional as a city, there has to be the ability to grow, and when you grow, there's old left over.
Because is it supposed to be a city, or is this supposed to be a place where, dude, you don't even never need to leave again? You have everything you need here. Your whole life can be started and ended on the line.
No, I think that's kind of what they're talking about.
Because I would be like, if I'm going to go to another city, how am I going to get there?
Mm-hmm.
Where am I going to park my car?
Yeah,
you
wouldn't need
over
a car
there, or how do I get there? Zip lining it.
Yeah. Now the outside of that building is mirrored glass. Have you seen these videos where they talk about skyscrapers and what they have to do with glass facades? Because there's so many
animals and stuff that run into it.
Birds that fly into it.
Oh boy,
that's a huge issue.
And 100 miles that's a lot. That's a big issue.
It would cut off potential natural wildlife from getting from one side to the other, which in evolution matters, because then you're separating populations that will never probably reach each other.
Easy fix
for breeding.
They just have tunnels to go through for the animals.
Yeah.
They have. I got to give them props. I thought it was kind of cool. They actually made it overpasses, and they just have forest land on it for the animals to.
That's right. Yeah, some cities are actually designed for that.
Do it a little bit differently.
That's right, and those are more sustainable. And when I think of sustainable models, that's more sustainable. They're building human conditions around some of the natural stuff,
right,
and not intruding so much on the wildlife or other things.
Well, you want them to go through, so when the elk goes through, you could something self-sustaining. Got to throw that in the freezer.
The future is full of vegans, Dave.
Oh, damn it! I figures.
So the other
and basement dwelling millennials. That's how they're going to get stuck in these little small spaces to live. Because these are going to be small spaces.
I think we just lost our one millennial listener.
Well,
we can't insult the millennials. Okay, so
you can. I'll tell you how you do it.
So the other thing was thinking about the reflective qualities of a glass. Where's that sunlight going? So much of it's going to get reflected back out into the desert.
No, it's all solar panel. It's got to be solar panel. I mean,
you can't see through a solar panel, though.
I don't think they care.
But they have to do it in a sustainable way, right? And they want equitable views and all this. But the sun isn't always with solar panels. In order to get maximum efficiency, they need to be facing the sun the entirety of the day.
No, you just do the whole building that way, so it's.
Also, the building twists and
no, not even that it twists. It's just that if it's full, then it'll get captured.
Oh,
gotcha. Not so much this time. On the west side this time, but if you cover the whole thing, you'll get full sun. It'll be good. They need it. How the hell else are they going to sustain it?
I don't know.
They have like some river that runs through it that has like a bunch of freaking paddles.
Can you imagine though the reflection and being the guy down in the hot desert? It's 120 degrees.
Oh, he's dead.
Down there already.
Don't be out there at 1:30 in the afternoon. You're a dead man.
Yeah.
A ray just comes out.
Yeah. You start
kills
seeing
everything.
You start seeing all of the sand out there turn to glass.
You know. I will tell you.
I don't know what the
something like
temperature
that.
is to melt, that into.
Yeah, I'm pretty
glass,
sure it's
but-
1600 degrees.
Yeah. Well, who knows what it could be. Anyway, so there's some just impractical things that I think of. Now,
Yeah.
here's the scary part. And we've talked about this when we did our episode on China.
Uh-oh.
They want the entire thing to be integrated with AI technology.
Why?
Because in order to automate, to anticipate, to do the things necessary to sustain a population in the most efficient way, it has to be very controlled. And they have to have AI constantly knowing what's going on, what you're buying, where you're going, what you're throwing away, what your habits are, where you're at what time.
See, I told you something was fucked up with this whole thing because it seemed, that's right. It's and I said you'd have to be brainwashed to
Yep.
what
Yes,
that's
you did.
exactly right.
Yep.
That's what they're doing. It's not about the what am I trying to say? Nature, preserving
the
wilderness.
sustainability.
It's about controlling you, and we're going to put you in this little box. You think it's going to be that pretty? They're going to build it. We're going to have bars on it instead. It won't have mirrors. Well, I don't know.
Think about it. If they integrate AI into every aspect of their lives, then there is really no autonomy. There's no freedom. You are monitored constantly.
You're going to be mindlessly doing your job.
Yeah, and when they decide the powers that be decide that they're going to implement something, they'll have the power to implement that, no matter what the descent might be.
What was it? It was Bruce Willis movie. It was a space one.
Yeah, Fifth Element.
Yeah, and he's like in there getting in trouble in his own little office, or his apartment, because I think he's talking out a term or something. He's getting like in trouble. I think it's that one.
I haven't watched that in a long time.
I could be
Is it the Fifth Element?
I could be mixing it up with a little bit of
I could be wrong too.
of the Sylvester Stallone's Demolition Man.
Oh, gotcha.
Because he had the
yeah, but there's a lot of movies
cussing, get in trouble because it'll go you can't cuss or that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, there's a lot of movies that talk about these utopian environments where there has to be a level of control. There has to be a level of AI monitoring you and your life to
make sure
efficiently
you're not
do things. Yeah. And of course, I don't think that's a good idea. I would never do that. I wouldn't live in a place where it's that controlled.
Doesn't sound good at all.
No, I like.
I wouldn't even go to an
privacy.
HOA place. I don't need them to tell me how tall my tomato plants are supposed to be,
or not. You can't even have
or
them.
I can't even have them. Right? Exactly.
Yeah, it's not native to this area. You can't have them.
Yeah, I think once you going into the line, you ain't coming out.
Mm-hmm.
I bet you can't.
Well, okay.
There's probably something. Yeah.
I really think that this whole thing is it's a distraction. In history, whenever a society needs some sort of control to get people on board, they have to make this grand project. I mean, the United States is guilty of it. We've had all of these build back better sort of things through our history. And was it FDR, the New Deal? It was like everything was government now is saying we're going to build industry, we're going to build and do all of these things, and now everyone wants to participate and on board. Industry is just revved up. All the businesses are now, they have a focus, they have purpose, and it sort of helps to control the population. And I mean, this is just one of those many things. You were talking about the pyramid.
Oh, yeah.
Pyramids were created, these work projects were created to control the population into building something that had really no value to them.
It's just they just got to keep their hands busy, or else they're going to create some ruckus.
Yeah. Yeah, I need my loaf of bread, my canister of beer every day.
Everybody, pick that up and put it over there. All right, pick that up, put it over there. Keep doing it.
Yeah,
Now build another one.
I think that's kind of what this is.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, it looks amazing. They're spending a heck of a lot of money producing marketing material. Their website looks really nice too. Everything is very well done, but I think it's all a distraction. They're talking about having, I think they came out in, was it 2016 or 17? That they were talking about this Neom region, and then they were going to be building these things in a certain timeline. And, they're talking about, I'm trying to remember what the dates were. I think it was like in 2030 something. It's not that far away.
No.
How do you produce all of this stuff, especially when the technology doesn't currently exist? I just think that because of how well they're marketing this, they're raising a lot of money, and I don't see it going anywhere. I think what it will produce is a distraction for stuff that's happening right now. I don't think this is actually going to happen. Now, if I'm wrong, that's an amazing thing. I might want to visit, maybe.
Not me.
I certainly want to live there. No,
I don't think I could go there and then, I don't know, maybe I just don't look right and the guy decides to whack me.
Mm-hmm.
Nope, doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
No.
Well, so briefly, before we close out the show, there's something to be said about primitive living.
Yeah.
You're not a like, let's go out and hang out with 1,000 people. You don't like to travel at all.
Nope.
You'd rather stay home and kind of be your own space. And I happen to be very similar to that. I deal with a lot of people every day. That's fine. But when it's my time,
right,
I like to get away.
Sure.
And I am fascinated by tiny homes. I'm fascinated by off-grid living. We've had conversations about like prepper stuff. It's fascinating to me.
Right.
How do you sustain just you and your family and maybe a few other people? Because you're gonna have to help me out when the shit hits fan. But
I got you.
But I'm very fascinated by all of the idea of not having these huge, massive, very costly things, but doing things that's more survival level.
You know what the difference is like those huge, costly things or AI. You can make up for that. It's just got to work.
Yeah,
it's just might be unfortunate, but you could self-sustain, but you have to work for it.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna, I'm sure in these utopias that you just show up and the clothes, because you toss your clothes down a hamper and they'll probably show up folded up in your drawer somehow,
done by some robot.
Right. Not the wife anymore.
No.
I'm sure the wives are finally like, yes, thank God, get this AI.
That's so funny.
Tired of freaking clothes folding in the laundry.
That's so funny. My wife doesn't let me touch the laundry.
Mine neither.
She gets really mad at me when I
was just going to say, it might sound sexist, but they don't let me.
Yeah. No, there's some truth to what we're saying.
She might let me, but I jack it up so much she'd rather me not. She has to go through and redo it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, but I think there's something to be said about doing it in a sustainable thing, but doing it where it doesn't require so much cost. There's also freedom. When you start incorporating a lot of people who want to control things, but the population loses certain freedoms.
Right.
And sure, I think when you're having to build things yourself, then you are kind of tied to the job and tied to that thing. But there's such a reward that comes about when you've completed a project. It creates additional benefits in your life.
Sure. And that's the thing is that the people that make these utopias, it's their vision, their mind, their feeling that they want. And they want to invite a bunch of people into their vision, their mind, and their feeling. My utopia, happens to be here,
Yeah.
And sure, it's my vision, my thoughts, my feelings, and but it's so out there for them to just hope that people would want to buy into their feelings and dreams, because you have to give up yourself. The These are going to be a bunch of people that don't have their own visions.
Mm-hmm. And to be honest, they're talking about bringing in the innovators, all the brightest people. But the reality is in this world, the brightest are here because of variety, because people have an opportunity to work with other people in other places and experience other things. And when you get locked into a very specific area, you lose the growth.
Stagnant. Yep.
You go stagnant.
Yep.
And I think this could be a scenario like that. But again, I still think it's kind of a scam. I don't think this is actually going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to be like, go fund this, GoFundMe. Sweet. No, didn't happen.
Of course, new palace, new.
Sorry, suckers from like out of our area that you can't sue us, or you know how that works. Yeah. But
well, their project, they have other things that we didn't feature on the show, like a floating city and some other stuff. But
I love that somebody's out there thinking about it. I love it because guess what? When they come up with that, they may put it together. I'm not saying they're not going to, but just putting the concepts together, they could actually pull away some things that are realistically usable.
Yeah, just going through this mental exercise is beneficial.
Yep.
You start getting creative juices flowing.
Yep.
So.
Completely agree. Yeah. It's awesome stuff.
All right, I think we are out of time. We are.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. If you don't mind, tell a friend. We'd love to grow the audience. Find more information on our website
at nevertooseries.com.
And you can find us on social media at the NTS Podcast. That's Twitter, Gettr, and Parler. And until we see you next time, take care.
And be safe.